So guys, it is absolutely awesome to have you here and welcome to this particular sales mastermind for the network. And I am delighted to be bringing you one of our Hall of Famers in terms of the Agent of the Year, none other than Mr. Andrew Lutze. Andrew, how you doing?
Hey, Mike, and g'day to everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. Andrew, one of the things that I truly respect about you is who you are, how you operate, and the ability for you to, apply that rapid adaptation to say, all right, this is what's in front of us, not necessarily what we plan to be in front of us, but given this is in front of us, what do we now need to do? What do we now do? What we now put in place? So guys, today I'm really excited to go through around 5 different topics that we're going to work through. So we're going to be sort of zooming through these pretty fast. Take some notes. As you know, this is also recorded and it's sitting on the knowledge base. So if you want to go back and have a look at it, then that's great. But we're going to talk about what's the mindset that Andrew has been having over this particular time frame. And Andrew, I guess we'll talk about the good, the bad, the ugly on that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
If you're okay.
Yeah, that's no dramas.
How you're generating business. What's happening in terms of the listing stock? What are you finding the buyers are doing at the moment? And then if we've got some time, just one of the challenges I think that people are having at the moment is how they're demonstrating value in terms of their fees and also the marketing investment. So it'd be good if we could actually jump in and do that. And guys, if you don't know Andrew works with the amazing agency Cunningham's and is one of their lead agents there who is just doing great things in the marketplace, running a super team that is very, very well developed. Andrew, you'd have to say?
Yeah, we've been quite well established for over 5-7 years now.
Yeah, which is brilliant. So let's jump in and talk mindset firstly. So, what's been your headspace around sort of navigating through all of this?
I think anyone, particularly me, I found it quite, I'm a quite pragmatic person. That's my personality. So I like to get on with things quickly, and there's an issue or there's a challenge that comes up and I just like to get on with it. But for the COVID situation, I found that we had a lot of stock that we had already listed pre-COVID. So I had quite a lot of listings to just go through and sell during that time frame. But what I think I've found is obviously with the restrictions around COVID is that normally most real estate agents go for a hard block of selling and then they take a short break. We haven't really had that opportunity. So I think a lot of people are feeling a bit, even though we've been working from home, I've certainly found that I haven't been able to get away, go and have a bit of recharge or do something like that. So I feel like I'm burning the candle at both ends a bit. So you constantly have to try and find new ways to go out there and refresh and exercise and clear your mind and try and stay current and relative and excited about the day. So with the pressures of obviously trying to make sales and we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, that's obviously been compounded. But equally having I think having a positive mindset is always healthy, of course, but just also allowing yourself the understanding that you are human. We're not robots. You can only work for so long before you do need a bit of a recharge, a reset. And that challenge for me has been, going for that 3-month period and not being able to go away and have a week away with family or something like that. It's been quite hard.
But you got the holiday house, haven't you? Just
South Coast of New South Wales. Yeah, that's right. So we usually go there, once a month just for a couple of days just to chill out. So that's just been quite difficult not to be able to just to refresh. It also has its positives because you get to spend more time with your family at home. And I've got a 7-month-old baby, so I've been having great time with my newborn and my 2 boys now. So it's been good. But take the good with the challenges and then obviously try and, when you are at work, try and be as effective as I can be.
Yeah. So just on that, given that you can't do those things, how have you done that? Have you done it through exercise, chilling out, going for walks? What have you been doing in terms of the recharge reset capability?
I think when the COVID first broke and everyone was sort of, there was all this disruption, what are we going to do and all that sort of thing, I really just stuck my head down and just got on with the job and just did a lot of work. So I actually had some really big months of good sales and our team performed really well. And that's partly because we just didn't want to know about it. We thought, all right, well, let's just get on with it. And whether that was arrogant or naive or whatever it might be, I think it was probably our saving grace, because we just said, look, let's just get on with it. Let's press hard. Let's make as much hay while the sun shines now, because again, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So from then on, though, I guess it has been quite. Sorry, Michael, what was you were stepping back into?
Well, just in terms of what have you done around that? So, what I've just heard you say in that is you're really focused on controlling the controllables and influencing the influenceables. And there's a lot happening out there in the world. Let me come back to what can I do?
And it was the simple disciplines and routines, actually, because what I found as a start is because we were doing the work, and then as things started, stock levels got tighter, properties weren't selling as well. They didn't need to sell. You'd have listings being withdrawn. That also affects your home life. So if you don't have a stable, home life and so on, then you can find you can get a bit disjunct. So getting back into a routine was really healthy for me. Getting back and doing some exercise, and also just finding that right balance as well between, yes, when you are at home, actually be at home. You're not constantly on the phone. You're not constantly on your Zoom meetings or checking in at all hours, because all of a sudden your work days becomes from 7 a.m. through to 10 p.m. at night if you want it to be. So actually getting back into a routine of actually, yep, I'm at work now, and then I'm actually at home, putting a suit on, going to work, pretending like you're going to work, rather than actually just, having a blended sort of work home style throughout the whole day.
Yeah, and watching that merging too much, because real estate is very, very hungry in terms of it's hungry on time. So if you give it 10 hours, it'll want 12. If you give it 12, it'll want 14. So
never stops.
So having that ability to quarantine it is really good. Let's talk about bringing on board sellers. Is there any dialogue around that? Because some are saying, I think I'll wait. Clearly, there's a heap of media out there that's suggesting different dynamics that could occur in the market, in the Australian and New Zealand marketplace. What's been your sort of dialogue or strategy to bring listings forward?
I think anyone who's bringing listings on at the moment, unless they're a full campaign, we're naturally doing the off-market style first. Dip our toe in the water. Look, no one knows what's going to happen once the quantitative easing stops in September. Obviously, there's going to be some big plays going on there. Now, whether that affects our micro markets or not, no one's got a crystal ball. So it is uncharted waters, and anyone who has an opinion on it, there's probably merit in that. So it's no point disputing it, because we all don't know. And what we do know right now, though, is that now that restrictions are being relaxed and so on, that there is a bit of confidence back in there. It's a shot in the arm that the market needs as well. So why not take advantage of that while we can? And let's dip our toe in the water with some people that we've got discreetly, privately from our database. And that will tell us one of three things. We'll either sell the property for a price you're elated with, in which case, great. We've saved yourself a bucket load of money on marketing and the rigmarole of a full campaign, but we secured a premium result. Two is that we get some really good feedback, some good intelligence on the property, but for whatever reason, maybe due to suitability of the property, it doesn't quite work for those buyers. We can then decide whether we want to take it to a full campaign or whether we want to actually put it to bed. Or third thing is we actually get totally humbled by the numbers, and it's nowhere near where we thought it would be, in which case, great, easy decision to park it. Let's leave it. Let's wait until we do know where the market firms up later in the year. By doing that exercise, it doesn't cost you anything. So it's a really great fact-finding mission, and I'm prepared to invest my time and my energy and effort to going down that avenue if you are, because I think it's an excellent exercise to know where do you really sit in the market, rather than sort of the ambiguity around price that so many properties are seeing at the moment.
So, Andrew, what I love about that is, one, incredibly natural, flowing dialogue, very internalized and you. Guys, a couple of things, if I can just sort of like do a bit of a deconstruct on that, Andrew, how great it was.
Yeah.
Number one, using micro markets. So that term micro markets, your property sits within a micro market. So yes, that might be happening across the whole of boom, boom, boom. In this micro market, let's actually have a look at the dynamics that exist. I also loved that you didn't play too much of a challenge game with the client. So I love the line, and some of you heard me say this. Look, you could be right. This is what we're seeing in this particular micro market, though. So not saying no, you're wrong. You could be right about where we're heading. No one knows that crystal ball kind of thing. What we're seeing in the micro markets is this and this and this. Excellent. And then that feedback and utilizing the word intel in there. gaining some intel on the market, just using some of those words, guys. And, they probably, for me, move into the category of juicy words to build that. So just make sure you're starting to notice that and say, are there some impact words coming into your dialogue? That's great. And typically, what are you finding? People, it's sort of a low risk way of them, as you say, dipping their toe in the market.
Look, you might get a few people who have got some objections around that. They're just not motivated enough. And it's really breaking down those barriers to say, look, you've got nothing to lose. And as long as they know that you're along for the ride, say, look, I'm prepared to invest my time, because I really do feel that there's actually some merit in this. I've got some people here that I think could really be some genuine contenders for your property at that premium level. Because why would we sell right now if we're just going to get a fair result? That's not really what we're after. And that's not my role. My role is to get you something that is really going to excite you and get you motivated to capitalize on this market. Now, if you do sell now and we're potentially in a stronger position than what we would be, let's say in September, and some of those doomsdayers, their theories come to fruition, then you might be in a perfect position to capitalize on the market and make that next move seamlessly. There's nothing better than in a current climate than being a cash buyer. So I think let's give you those options. Let's give you that opportunity to have a few options on the table, and it won't take a long process. We'll know this in 2 to 3 weeks, at the most.
Yeah, fantastic. Andrew, at the listing appointment, are you doing much on safety? Is that coming up as an issue? Have you added anything in there around sort of people feeling safe about the process that you're going to work through?
Do you mean safety from a COVID,
Is there anything that you're putting in place? We've got a standard within the office or anything like that?
I think most people, if they're in that selling mode, they've actually been out and seen open houses anyway. So they've seen and been exposed to part of that process. So no, I'm not really doing a lot around that, partly because we haven't really needed to. Now, if that does come up in the conversation, of course, we're addressing it and we're saying, look, we're coming here to going through our list of standards and protocols that we have for every property and how we qualify the buyers and so on. So we are taking that very seriously, but no, I haven't really had that come up, partly because I think that conversation was about 2 months ago, when we were really into that zone and we're in that hot seat of saying, okay, well, are we wearing gloves? We can only take 3 people through at a time, that sort of stuff. But now that the restriction is going the other way, it feels like we're coming out the other end and people want to ramp up. And we had an open house first showing on the weekend. So crazy the things are getting. We had 72 groups of people through one first open house, and you can imagine it was just mental. And we were holding people back, and I had to yell out to Sam. My colleague was like, just hang on a second, tell people to hang on, because you're going to get people pissed off at the open house saying, oh, this is no social distancing and so on. So we had to really be respectful of that. But that certainly caught us off guard in terms of the first open we've had, where we've really seen a big spike in numbers.
And look, what a fantastic wow factor and a case study to be able to share with colleagues. So are you now extending the time of your first open for a new property launching?
Yeah, I think if they're going to be, in a landmark property that's got a really aggressive price guide, great marketing, photographs well, already that you've had heaps of internet inquiry that, it probably be a good idea. We'll probably keep the same time frame, but we'll allow us more time either side, so 20 minutes before, 20 minutes after, so we're not getting people turning up, we have to turn them away. Yeah, that's great. Andrew, just on your listing, and we weren't planning to cover this, but it's sort of like, you're seeing Go with it, sure.
If there are 3 big conversations you're having at the listing appointment that you think can make the biggest difference to, move clients towards you, because that's the key that you do brilliantly well at a listing appointment. The clients are there saying, well, I've got choice, Andrew. And by the end of it, they're saying, actually, no, I want Andrew on my team. Are there 3 key conversations that you think make the biggest difference with that?
That's a good question, because it's probably not 3 big points. It's more people want. I know from a holistic point of view, people want to deal with people they like. So a lot of the time it starts by being an approachable person and so on. And this is all basic stuff. No one really wants to hear this, because everyone likes to think that, oh, I'm a nice person. People are going to warm to me as well. But ultimately, it's going to come across when you deal with them, and the conversations you're going to have up front. Not halfway through the listing appointment. You kind of already lost that key rapport building skill. So it's definitely upfront, lots of smiles. And I know if I'm not getting enough smiles in the first 10 minutes, I'm probably too serious, too much business, not enough party. So we need to get a bit more relaxed, a bit more, energy into that first conversation, and that will then break down the barriers for them. We start building rapport. So that's probably the first thing. Definitely the second thing would
what are you doing? What are you doing in there? So what sort of conversations are you having?
just depends on where we met. So I'll usually bring back to where we originally met, whether it was at an open house, at a soccer game or a football, whatever it might be, or something. There might be was a referral from someone else. We talk about that person and some of the idiosyncrasies that person's done that I know will break down the barriers, something lighthearted, or we'll talk about renovations or when they've done their renovations, and because they'll be passionate about some part of the house or the unit. So I'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about how did you find the bill? Was it, did you get 3 builders and combine the quotes together and that's what it really cost? Or was it actually, someone was, so you can just have a bit of play, lightheartedness with that sort of thing. We'll create a bit more rapport. And so it is conversation style, not a structured listing appointment. Now my listing appointments are very structured. They are very structured, but they're very conversation style. So it doesn't feel like it's structured. So I've clearly got an agenda that I walk through, and just so I don't miss anything, but it starts off with that really lighthearted conversation. And I normally don't even get into discovery mode until I feel like I've had a good 5 to 10 minute conversation with them where we're sitting down, having a good rapport build, chatting about life and their buying plans and renovate, or whatever it might be, and then I feel like once we've had that, exhausted that's when we can then move into business. So that's probably the first thing. Second thing would be definitely around, it's a, I'm not sure if it's a learned behavior, but it's something I'm passionate about. And you've taught me very well from your training skills, is that belief transfer. When I am delivering a point that's critical about listing with Cunningham's or listing with me, I'm very, very firm on when I deliver that I lean in, my body language, the skills are going to be that, this is something that I firmly believe your property is going to be in better hands with me and my team than anyone else. So if I'm delivering a fee objection, or I'm delivering strategy or something like that, I'm very passionate about that, and I make sure that the owner feels that connection when I'm coming across. So I'm leaning in, I'm accenting the correct words when I'm saying it, the linguistics that you always talk about, I'm using the correct language that's going to suit that person. If they're a CEO or they're a high level business person, I'm going to be very articulate. If there's someone who's a tradie, I'm going to be a bit more, how are you, blokey sort of thing, if that's their personality type. So it's that match and mirror. But that's the second thing. And then finally, if there was a third thing, it would be making sure you close strongly, so that people want to know that once the conversation's dying down, that you are taking control and you're leading them to ultimately signing an agreement. So the next steps from here, always using a forward conversation, forward motion in that listing process to make sure that, okay, well, look, why don't we fill out some paperwork? Probably next steps from here, why don't I go over some agreements so that we're all on the same page? Because clearly I can't have any of those productive conversations until I've got your authority, and so just some of those closing skills are really important to make sure that you're moving the conversation forward. They're on your side. Yep, we're Team Lutze, let's go with it.
Yeah, great. So building momentum in there.
That's it.
Really leading the conversation and making sure that they know, hey, the next step in this process is, by the way, I love that. Of course, I can't actually activate this great strategy until you give me the authority to actually go ahead. Why don't we get some paperwork started and boom, boom, boom. Great flowing dialogue that it's a logical next step. And obviously from an objection point of view, sometimes people come up with a fee objection and or a marketing objection. That's probably the two biggies that occur. Assuming you're the one. Well, can you sharpen your pencil on fees, and what about marketing? Is there any compromise that you can do on that? Any tips on that one?
I think with any of those objections as well, when you arrive at that part of the conversation, listing appointment, that the hard work usually is done up front where you're pre-framing that as well. So before we even get to that point, I've probably already, if I know that I've got competition there, I'll always say, look, if Bell know they're up against Cunningham's and Andrew, then they'll always tell you a much higher sale price and offer a much lower fee just to win your business. Now, respectfully, I've worked very, very hard for my career to get the reputation that I won't be doing that. And I hope you can respect that I'm not going to be doing that today. I'm absolutely going to be competitive, and I'll give you a very competitive rate for what my services and what I offer. But if you're after the cheapest agent, then I'm certainly not going to be a guy. And I sincerely hope that that's not going to be the case today. That's just one little, like a monologue, if you like. You don't want to do too much of that because it'll just get a bit too, gushy.
Yeah.
But you need to have a good, when I'm trying to train the guys here at Cunningham's, I tell them you need to have a very good monologue style value proposition where you do, but it's in a pre-frame. So it's not actually answering the objection. It's the pre-frame that you won't have to answer the objection because they're already on the same page. They go, you know what, fuck, Lutze does deliver really good value. He's an exceptional agent, and what am I not going to get when I don't choose Andrew? So for me, that's the first thing, is I don't have to handle a lot of the objections if I pre-frame it correctly. But if we do get to the end and say, well, hang on, Andrew, you're at 2%, these guys are 1.5, can you come to the table at that? And so, listen, I fully appreciate that, on the surface, it would seem like we're all equal agents, but we're not, and the level of experience and the business acumen that I'm going to bring to the negotiation table is ultimately why you're paying my fees. And that's the number one skill set you're going to need for me to actually motivate the buyer and get them to a level that is going to far exceed all of our expectations. Now, it's easy to talk about this stuff now, but ultimately it comes down to your track record. And if you look at my history versus some of the competitors that you're valuing me against, I think that I'd bring a lot more to the table than just say $5,000, which would be the difference between 1.5% and 2%. I think your biggest asset is not really judged on $5,000. It's probably over a couple of $100,000. And that's where I'm an expert. That's where you're absolutely going to find better value in me than anyone else. So that's just another little, you can play around with that stuff. You can get really, really quite clever with how you're going to articulate some of those value things, but you've got to practice it. And
Andrew, I think a big point here is, that's the thing they feel comfortable challenging you on. Are your fees negotiable? And if you're clear on that, if you have a compelling case, they go, okay, I really respect that, and move on. But if you don't, if you go, what did the other agent say? All right, well, and all of a sudden they go, hang on,
lost confidence.
You don't believe in your value. You don't believe in that. So exactly. You flip that around and say, hey, absolutely, with certainty. How well are you using case studies? Are you flipping into a case study sort of there to say, well, let's just have a look at this?
Yeah, I think that's one thing I was quite poor at actually for a long time, is that I just give these big dialogue dumps, and I wasn't using a case study to link it back in, because it's the so what factor. What does it really mean to the client? The client say, yeah, that's great, Andrew, but it's all fluff, So if I didn't have the conviction, you've really got to tie that in conversation style, rather than saying, and actually an example is, or here's a case study. So if you're not great at that, you've got to tie it in and say, look at, and look, to be honest, one of the perfect ideas that we had around this was actually one of my clients I just sold for. You go into that case study. So you're linking between your monologue and that case study is going to be critical, because that's where they'll either buy into the value of what you're saying, or they'll say, no, this is just another script, or you just sound like another agent. So the linking is probably the hardest part, and I find that that's probably the one of the most critical. And you'll see the body language and the inflections and how their moods might change, whether they buy into the conversation or whether they're disconnecting. And if I find they're disconnecting, I'll stop straight away, and I'll go back into question mode. I said, well, why don't you tell me, what do you think are the most critical things that are going to have us working together? Just ask some of those really upfront, almost invasive questions, because that's what I need to know. What's stopping us moving together? Is it really just fees? Is that the hardest thing? Is that the only thing stopping us moving? Because I, to be honest, really want to work with you. Your property is the exact type of property I sell at Cunningham's, and I think your property and my negotiation skills will be perfectly aligned to get you a premium price, better than any of my competitors. I can wholeheartedly say that.
Yeah.
So it's just so I need to know what's stopping us.
So there's a couple of things there, guys, that Andrew is doing, and I just want to really highlight this. The first thing, Andrew, you're playing mastery in terms of promises into evidence. So here's a promise. Let me then link it to some evidence, and be that a graph, be that a case study, be that a Bill and Mary that we sold for last week, or the first week open that came through. You could be correct. Here's what we're seeing in our micro market. Boom, 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 into evidence, right? Promises into evidence. So that's brilliant. The other thing, Andrew, you've worked on your dialogue so much. I can tell by the way you're describing your clients. I'm noticing their body language. I'm noticing their mood. I'm noticing this. You've worked on your dialogue, that you're not in your head. You're not in your head at the listing appointment. You're actually with them. You're totally tuned into them. And this is the ultimate gift, guys. You know, you've heard me say, you know, present is the gift you give yourself and someone right now. That's why it's called the present. So you're able to be in that mode and sort of trusting you've got the dialogue there that's going to come out when you need it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Because for so many years you practice the dialogue and you internalize it to try and make it your own, but it never comes out right. It's always clunky, but eventually, yeah, it'll all sink in, you know, and like the jigsaw puzzle, and it'll become clear. And then it does, like you said, just become about the conversation. You can pick up different mood things, and it's just important for me to see how they're responding to what I'm saying, so that I can adapt and change. And
Yeah. Fantastic.
and don't get me wrong, it doesn't always work. I still lose heaps of listings. So but
by the way, Andrew, you are demonstrating brilliantly why you are in the Hall of Fame in terms of the ARIAs, in terms of that level of internalisation and flow around it. You know, we saw you at Kickstart up against Todd, and clearly the Aussies won. Even though it was a tie with that. Can we just move on now and talk a little bit about seller management now? And you know, are there any changes or upgrades? And, you know, we've spoken about Jenga blocks. This is not a time to leave anything out of that seller management process. And there's probably two kinds of stock. The stock that you've had that either came on pre or during COVID and stock coming on now. And then we'll actually shift over to the buyer management conversation. By the way, guys, as you're tuning in, I'd love to hear from your point of view what you're finding most valuable. So just put into the chat any sort of like little grabs, and we'll do a quick summary on those two with it. You know, incredibly valuable, Andrew, what you're sharing. So seller management firstly.
Yeah, seller management has been a real challenge of mine. I've always felt I had great seller management, and then when COVID broke, because we were just scrambling to get everything sold, that definitely dropped off. And I think that the challenge can be, because you're not getting face to face with your clients anymore, that sometimes things can drop by the wayside. So you're right. There's two types of markets at the moment in terms of property profiles. There's all the stock that we're launching now in the last 2 to 3 weeks since restrictions have been sort of lifted, and they're selling well. So we're going back to set for sale meetings accurately. We're doing all our weekly reports correctly. We're having good dialogue. You're doing daily conversations. We're setting up WhatsApp groups so that we're all connected between all the agents and all the key stakeholders in the decision-making process. So that stuff is still there and firing as if it was back in February, or January. The challenge is the stuff that we launched during COVID as well. There's the motivation that's being lost by the selling agent if we're not getting enough momentum, or let's say I found myself getting quite frustrated at either the seller's not moving the goalpost down to meet the market or the buyer's not coming up. And so I'm having shorter conversations with both of them. And it's actually a reflection of my poor management skills rather than actually being their trusted advisor and guiding them through that process, which is really what they need. They now more than ever, when things get tight, that's when they actually need your management skills at their best. So it's constantly checking yourself and realizing that when things are going wrong, and James Hayward is really good at this in our office, so he says you need to double down your communication with your seller. So if they're not having a good campaign or they're not getting that, it's having that brutal honesty, but telling them I've got your back, I'm by your side. So there's a few reset meetings, few realignments, actually resetting the communication plan. There's nothing better than actually telling a seller, look, I just want to stop. I feel like the campaign is just sort of humming away and we're not progressing. We're not actually getting, to where we need to be, which is actually having a sold sticker on your signboard for a price you're happy with. And I feel like we need to reset some of those boundaries. Having those conversations is going to be probably critical, and that's the hardest part for me. Is actually not so much the new stock coming on in the last 3 weeks. It's been all that old stock, and you don't want to just let that go because some other agent will pick it up and they probably will sell it. So it's reinventing that. And
the plan is clearly not to do a great job of getting the next agent ready to sell the property. So those resets are incredibly important, and I think it's that moving towards that and knowing where they're at, knowing, well, is this a listing or a liability as it currently stands? How do we shift it? And as soon as we can shift it, the faster we shift it, the better. From the point of view of moving into it. Look, if they've appointed you as their agent, they're wanting it sold. Let's make that assumption. And how much are you talking about? Well, the circumstances have changed, or the dynamics in the market have changed or shifted.
Yeah.
How much of that are you putting in?
Yeah, we're using quite a lot of that. Obviously saying, look, that no one would have expected what's happened with COVID and how that's affected pricing. But if we're relying on any results, prior to February, then we're really a bit out of touch of what's actually going on in the market. So, as much as, and I love that frame, this look, if it was such a bargain, and let's say the price is on for 1.8 million, I'd say to the owner, look, if it was such a bargain at 1.8 million, I'd have 5 or 6 or 7 offers to present you right now, and I don't. And that's what's really concerning for me, and it should be for you, because as much as we're putting in maximum effort to get your property on top of buyers' shopping lists, I'm just not getting them coming through the door. I'm not getting buyers engaged, taking contracts. Some of those key triggers that I normally see to tell me whether I'm on track with your campaign or off track, they're not arriving. And I'm concerned that I'm going to be giving you bad advice if we don't address it right now. So just having that hard conversation will probably lead to that. Now, I'm not doing that as frequently as I should say.
That's good dialogue.
So there's a bit of humility there, yeah. But it's definitely something I've got written down now. I've got to get some resets going on. But I think it's for some of our sellers as well. That but we'll wait and see what happens next weekend. We'll wait and see what happens. Let's hope something changes this weekend and we get buyers out there. That will probably get you so far to about maybe week 6 or week 7 before you really need to have that reset meeting. So, so stock levels are still coming through. Seller management, it's all coming back online, but it's just a bit of a shift, a realignment now, making sure that owners understand. Look, if you're expecting something to change or us to find that elusive buy, yes, there is. It's like that conversation we had earlier. Yes, there is merit in that, but I just don't know how long we need to wait. And I don't know, I'm not sure how many other things will come on before we arrive at that position. And I don't want to be irresponsible by telling you the wrong thing when I know that all the feedback is coming in significantly lower than that. So we need to get your property more competitive on buyer shopping lists, and in their zone where we can start getting some sensible offers rather than sort of these really low ball offers.
Yeah, fantastic, great dialogue. Just great. So let's shift over now from the seller side of it to the buyer side. And I know the buyers can be frustrating at the moment because they're thinking they're coming in buying a bargain. So,
yes.
So can you talk a little bit about those particular strategies?
Yeah, I think the buyer work, again, it's similar to what we had on the seller side, that the buyer work for new listings is actually quite strong, quite comfortable for us. So we're not really that challenged on that. I think we're going to go through how we always had things with that buyer work and building that up. And if anything, we're holding some buyers back from making offers in the first week because we just want to have an extra week on the market to get a full sense of that, of where the property is going to be positioned. The buyer work on the COVID properties definitely needs a lot of massaging, and I've been very very poor at actually, a buyer puts in a low ball dog shit offer, and I've been really, frustrated that, and I've almost burnt that buyer by
That's a very
not.
technical term, by the way, guys. Just if you pick that term.
So it's been very, very frustrating not being able to, that the property's worth that level, but you've got to remove yourself from protecting the price, and I found that that's something, again, I've got to practice what I preach, because I tell the guys at Cunningham's here, don't be the gatekeeper of price. You're here to help the owner move, get those offers, whatever they are. You may think they might be absurd, and take them to the owner, and let's see whether we can start bridging the gap. It's all about just, the owner's here, the buyer's here. That may be 400 grand difference, but slowly we'll get closer and closer and closer until we can get a deal. So any negotiation is just about moving those goalposts. If it keeps moving, you're negotiating. It's excellent. But once he hits stalemate, there's nothing. That's when those properties will sit for another 4 weeks, another 8 weeks, and you think, God, we just can't move it. So the buyer work has been, I've been encouraging any offers now. You just see if we can look, you never know what the owner might say. So I've trying to flip what I've been doing, which is actually protecting the price, saying, oh God, that's we're way off. We're worlds apart when someone makes an offer, to actually saying, okay, well look, you never know. I think that would be exceptional if you could buy it at that level. So let me put it to the owner and I'll get some instructions. So first doing that to open dialogue. I've got one property, a landmark property I'm selling at the moment, and I've never really sold property at this price point. It's at $6 million, and the owner's expectations are 6.6, and I've got a 5.8 offer, and the rest of the market's all below 5 million, and we've had about 60 groups through. So, and I'm having a face-to-face with them tomorrow to try and get them to come realign, and this would be like, great, if we could sell it, it'd be amazing, but normally I'd probably laugh at that and say, well, we're so far away and blah, 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 but, it's just a matter of just positioning and getting those buyers, the dialogue keep flowing.
Yeah, and look, just a couple little points that I'm really liking in this. You didn't say this, but you inferred it. Is in the negotiation, is this an advancement or is it a continuation? So
Yeah.
you've got advancement thinking built in. So you need to be thinking about, I'm having a conversation with this buyer. How do we shift it from a continuation, whether I had the call or not, we're still in the same place, to an advancement, we've moved it forward. And I know you're doing things like, great, what are you thinking your first offer is going to be? And buyers at the moment, those opportunistic buyers, will think what they're going to buy the property for, and they'll go below it. And the most important thing, guys, here, if they buy it at that rate, they're actually going to be really pissed off. You need to understand this, because they think they could have bought it cheaper. So
That's right.
like, oh yeah. So a little bit of that sort of the barley sort of pullback. Oh, I didn't see that one coming. And where would your second offer be? Just as a little bit of a test is really good in that particular process.
We're getting lots of buyers doing that, Michael. You have a guide. Let's say you have a guide. We're selling a property at the moment. It's got a guide of 1-2. But our range is 1-2 to 1-3, and and people see that one number and they'll say, okay, we'll make an offer of 115. They think it's an asking price, and we're saying, look, we've got a guide of 1.2 to 1.3 million. To be competitive on this one, you'd need to be at the upper echelon of that guide. Otherwise, there's not really an incentive for the owner to sell prior to auction. So would you like me to put 1.3 to the owner and see what they say? Oh, no. Well, look, we were thinking around 1.15. Look, I fully appreciate that. If that's where you'd like to start, that's fine. But I just don't want to mislead you. I think you're probably going to be a fair way away from where the rest of the market feedback has been, which is more around that upper echelon.
Yeah. And some great dialogue that Matt Bourne shared that's really helping them in their marketplace. Is it the property or the price? So help me understand, is it the property or the price? So it seems like you love this one. You found it, you love it, why not own it? So why don't we actually just work on this price issue and get this solved for you? So rather than house hunting, you can do that. The other one that I have seen used, and I'd just like your feedback on this, is, well, I think the market's going to go down, another 5 or 10%. So look, the Manly market, the Seaforth market, the Balgala market is quite a micro market, and it's supported by a series of dynamics. So that's a neat thing to put in with the buy conversation. If you do think the market's going to go down 5%, let's agree that 1.3 would more than likely buy the property today. So why don't you factor in a 5% reduction in that, and let's put an offer in on that. So
yeah, it's great.
So let's put a 5% in there, and let's actually put that on paper and move it forward. And it's a bit cheeky, but it's actually quite neat cheeky. They go like, all right, I'm dealing with a deal maker here. I don't have a messenger who's going to just take the message I've got. They're actually working for the vendor. I can tell this agent's going to actually work it.
Yeah, I think that's a good little one, because ultimately what you really want is get an offer on the table, and then you can leverage that against every other buyer to find out where you really stand. So, I mean, there's obviously some rebuttal comments I'm sure that will pop up, but I think that's great.
Yeah. And look, I think one of the things that you do is you do a very nice blend of cheekiness with rapport and respect. So, and that's a fine line. And you've got a good laugh. You probably can't do a laugh right now, but you quite often
you're making me do it now. Yeah.
Quite often you'll deliver something a little bit hard, and then you'll actually lighten it.
Yeah.
And they'll go, hang on, is this hard or is it light? Have I been slapped or tickled? I'm not sure. And move forward with it. Hey, Andrew, this has been fantastic. I've massively enjoyed it. What do you think, guys? Can you in the chat, can you just drop in what are your favourite little components? Because this is also great for Andrew to hear. And by the way, some of you assume someone else is going to do that, so you don't need to. So jump in and start popping into chat. What's been your favourite component and favourite part, and any comments you'd like to feed back to Andrew? While the guys are doing that, Andrew, any sort of last little gems you'd like to add? Tips that you might be sharing with your guys at Cunningham's?
No, I think now that we're seeing a lot of those restrictions being lifted, I think one of the neat things is going to be, everyone always says it's going to be harder coming out of COVID than it actually is going into it. So I think that, setting yourself up now, doing a lot of the backbone hard work around your pipeline. Right now, I know everyone says, well, you do pipeline daily and that's fine. But I do think that actually really getting serious about your pipeline and positioning yourself up that when you do hit July or August, you've got a really clear plan how you're gonna get the edge on your competitors. Because I can tell you right now, there's a lot of guys still in our market that they're doing these off-market deals and they're not getting exposure. So how you're going to get properties to full campaigns, getting them out there as well, and being really focused on that. It's almost like doing a 30-day restart of just massive energy into it and then have a break. Or whether you do a break first and then go do it. I don't mind, but I think that's one thing that I really need to remind myself is that, this is an energy business. You've got to have heaps of energy to get into it. And we all, I feel a bit drained, and I've got to have a week off and want to get to have a holiday. But I'm almost, now that I'm saying it, I'm energizing myself by doing it, because I know that it is an energy business. You've got to get in there and have a crack. So having a clear plan so that when springtime comes, you've got a flush, board of listings, you're ready to go, and you're going to have a kick-ass end of the year.
Yeah, yeah. I think, Andrew, the other thing is having a holiday in your future is such a key component. You've got something to look forward to. So even if, and you and I both, we've talked about this, a long weekend or, an extra day either side, or for you guys, it might be a midweek weekend away kind of thing. That just is that nice little energy boost. Don't assume a night away or 2 nights away or something like that can't be that energy kind of reset. So and making sure you're looking after yourself in that particular process. Hey, lots of great comments coming in. I'll just read through. So from Duncan Hill, great stuff. Love, if it was such a bargain at 1.8 million, I'd have a lot of offers. We'd be seeing multiple offers. I'm concerned we aren't seeing the right data. I love it. You've moved into we aren't seeing the right data. Let's have a look at this. Pre-framing the objections before they occur. Great. So some objections, guys, just my tip on this is you're better off to say, I don't want to handle this one after it's come up, because in some cases, Andrew, you find out the objection after they've listed with someone else. You want to front load those ones. And then occasionally you want to keep 1 or 2 that are really good to bring up. That's a really good point. Let's actually talk about how we resolve it. Great passion and confidence, Andrew, when you're protecting your fee and explaining why people should work with you. Great conviction. What a legend from Claudia. Great. Remove the price protection. Girk. Great point. Great scripting and training. Worked on dialogue so much that agents are present. Yes. Yeah. Great, Duncan. Nicole saying, reading body language and going back into question mode when required. Excellent. Your property sits in a micro market. Great, Craig. I totally agree. Love your energy, Lutze, from Anita. Fantastic. Double down on the communication when things are not great. Excellent. So move towards the tension there, guys. Love the scripts. Very smooth and cohesive. Great stuff from Mr. Michael Barr. Sandy, the link well. If clients are starting to disconnect, go back into questioning mode. Excellent. Andrew, your amazing dialogue. Enjoy listening to him. Michael, great to break up this video into bite-sized pieces. Thanks for the coaching, Kerry. I appreciate it. You can always count on Kerry giving you a little bit of coaching along the way. And listing the property, seen in the micro market now, and the dynamics of the current situation currently exist. Yeah, great. It's a low risk way, minimal investment, but I'm prepared to invest my energy and effort into making that happen. Guys, can we give Mr. Andrew Lutze a round of applause? It's a virtual round of applause, by the way, Andrew. We're kicking in. Hey, just awesome to have you guys. We're not going to do a breakout rooms. I think the most important thing coming out of this is to really sit down with your colleagues, and whether that be the total team or 2 or 3 guys within the team, and say, okay, what resonates? There's huge amounts resonates from me with this, Andrew, and I just think you're such a great demonstration of doing the right thing for clients, doing the right thing for your family, doing the right thing for your team, and bringing that together in a way that allows the dialogue to make it easy to make sense. Now, it's not the dialogue, it's actually the energy sitting behind it, because 2 people can say the same piece of dialogue and not get the job done. You're actually doing it in such a way that's having a real impact with your people and with your clients. Hey, looking forward to seeing the journey that you're heading into. By the way, guys, as a direction and a heading, I know quite often we do a calendar year planning. This is probably the year to do financial year planning or a July to June next year plan. So you might want to jump onto the knowledge base, have a look at there's a super team planner, there's an agent planner, there's a BDM planner there too. So, business development manager and property management. So it's a great time for you to do this neat reset and say, what do we want to achieve in the next 12 months? Why we know we've had a hiccup. Let's actually make sure we're looking through the windscreen, not the rear vision mirror, as to where we're heading. And Andrew, you're such a brilliant example of looking through the windscreen and where you're heading. Thank you so much. And,
thanks for having me, and good luck to everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. And
right.
be well, guys. All the best.
See you, mate.
Thank you.